The death toll from yesterday's devastating bomb attack in Kabul airport has increased to 170. The Pentagon has confirmed there was one attack, not two. Heightened Taliban security is in place as evacuations enter their final phase. Spain is the latest nation to announce its evacuation operation has concluded, along with several other NATO countries. The US says a total of 12,500 people were evacuated in the past 24 hours. The humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan is deepening, according to the World Health Organization, with medicines in short supply and people facing severe food and water shortages. One other story, Manchester United say they've reached an agreement with the Italian club Juventus to re-sign Cristiano Ronaldo. The Portugal star left Manchester in 2009 for Real Madrid, having scored 118 goals in 292 games.
In Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says his country has not decided if it will run Afghanistan's Kabul airport as requested by the Taliban militant group. In Japan, health officials suspend the use of 1.63 million injections of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. The action came after a foreign substance was identified in some vaccine containers. In South Sudan, UN peacekeepers say violence in Tambura has caused 28,000 people to flee their homes. And the United States promises Haiti an additional $32 million in aid after an earthquake earlier this month.
Well, Rina Amiri is a policy and mediation advisor at NYU's Center for International Cooperation and also a senior fellow at NYU's Center for Global Affairs. She has actually worked to settle conflicts in several countries, including her native Afghanistan. More than 95 Afghan civilians were killed in that attack, as you know, and people in Kabul are reacting to the bombings in various ways. This is a tough time, and there's also the potential threat of more attacks. So tell me, Rina, what has it been like to hear from your friends and your family there in Afghanistan? What are they telling you?
Thank you. First, I just want to express my condolences and prayers to the servicemen's families and the Afghans who've lost so much life, including their children. It's been devastating. People at this they don't even have time to grieve this catastrophe that's taken place. And I still am getting calls from people saying, the doors are closing, please help us leave. There's a real sense of desperation, and these are people who feel that they face risks either way. They face potentially getting killed at the airport or being under threat and potentially getting killed by the Taliban. These are people who have been on kill lists. And there's just a sense of feeling trapped and they know that the deadline is approaching and are praying that the U.S. will be able to do what it has said, which is that travel will be possible afterwards. And for that, there will have to be humanitarian corridors. There will have to be the involvement of the UN and humanitarian agencies and bringing in the region to really make that happen. It's not going to happen without that type of diplomatic effort by the U.S. and the international community.
Well, I want to talk more about those inside Kabul in a moment. But, you know, you also have dealt with a number of conflicts, working to settle conflicts. And, you know, as you know, officials have now said that ISIS-K is responsible for the attack. It has taken responsibility for the attack. What do you know about this terrorist group?
Well, ISIS-K emerged in 2015. There was a shift of alliance from the Pakistani Taliban and some of the Afghan Taliban to this group. They are a group of about 2,000. They used to be concentrated in the north and east, and now they've become more decentralized. They've been fighting with the Taliban over territory, over resources, over power. My concern is about ISIS, but my concern is also about a number of other terrorist groups. They are not the only group. We're talking about them right now because of the attacks. But there's the terrorist groups from Central Asia. There's the fact that the Taliban still maintain a formal tie with Al-Qaeda. You know, the part of the peace agreement was that they would break that tie. And that has, they've never publicly disavowed Al-Qaeda. And what we have to watch out for is not just ISK, but from Afghanistan once again becoming a sanctuary for terrorism. In the last 20 years, the presence of U.S. forces and the international community, the efforts to create an inclusive government all were designed not for nation building, but to protect the region and the world from terrorism.
There is a lot of concern about not just ISIS-K, but yes, these other jihadists coming into this country that is just in complete chaos right now. And there's also a lot of concern, Rina, as you know, about the U.S. working with the Taliban, wondering if you can trust the Taliban at this point to help evacuate Americans. What do you think of that risk?
I think right now the U.S. and the rest of us do not have any good choices in front of us. The Taliban control the country, and the only way to get people out is by working with the Taliban and through the Taliban. I think what it points to is that, and during this phase, this is what we have to do. But going forward, you will need an inclusive government. You will need that diplomacy because we should not only be relying on the Taliban, where we are making a huge set of assumptions about what their interests are and how we can work with them. It is the enemy of my enemy mentality. That's never worked for us. So we need to continue pushing diplomatically for an inclusive government which will moderate the Taliban. And for monitoring and verification, we need the UN involved. We need to get eyes back on the situation in Afghanistan, both from a security point of view and from a human rights and humanitarian point of view. And for that, we need UN leadership. We really need to work through the region because we are no longer, the U.S. has called the shots for the last 20 years. The U.S. is not going to be in that position. And it'll be absolutely key for the U.S. to work with the regional actors, including Russia, China, Pakistan, and really develop some sort of regional mechanism or support a regional mechanism in order to stabilize Afghanistan, prevent it from becoming a terrorist sanctuary, to protect the rights of the people inside the country, and to address the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in front of our eyes.
We'll be talking about all of that for weeks and months to come. Rina Amiri, thank you so much.
Afghanistan's capital continues to be in chaos as people scramble to flee the country and the Taliban. Two major explosions near Kabul's airport on Thursday killed more than 70 Afghans and 13 U.S. military personnel. The attacks happened outside a crowded airport gate where U.S. and British forces were stationed. Several gunmen reportedly fired shots, adding to the turmoil. A news agency linked to the Islamic State militant group published a statement saying a regional affiliate of the group, known as ISIS-K, claimed responsibility for the attacks. The deteriorating security situation is causing panic among Afghans.
It was a really heartbreaking incident for Afghans. If the present situation continues, many people will flee to neighboring countries.
Kabul was quiet on Friday due to a holiday, but Taliban fighters are on high alert against further attacks. They appear to be intensifying security near the airport. A Taliban official told Turkish media on Thursday the group condemns the attacks and blamed the presence of foreign troops.
Targeting innocent civilians is an act of terrorism that has to be condemned by the entire world. It is because of foreign forces, the presence of foreign forces, that such attacks take place.
He said the Taliban will ensure security at the airport and surrounding areas after foreign forces leave. Japan's Self-Defense Force aircraft ferried a Japanese national to Pakistan on Friday, marking the first evacuation flight of their mission. The Japanese government had been trying to evacuate up to 500 people, mostly Afghans working for the Japanese embassy and international organizations, along with their families. But those people were unable to reach the airport in Kabul. Officials had effectively set a Friday deadline for their evacuation mission. Foreign ministry officials and SDF personnel sent for the operation have left Afghanistan. Now, European governments, including Germany, Poland, Belgium, and the Netherlands, have announced the end of their evacuation flights. Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel said trying to evacuate people following the explosions involved immense risk.
We will not forget those people who could not be rescued by the air bridge. Rather, we will do everything we can to enable their evacuation.
U.S. President Joe Biden says his nation will not be deterred by terrorists. He added the evacuation plan will continue even after the completion of the U.S. military withdrawal at the end of the month. Moving to the coronavirus situation here in Japan, officials in Tokyo reported 4,227 new infections on Friday. That's down more than 1,000 from last Friday. The daily tally has dropped week on week for 5 days in a row, but experts are warning the current figures are still at disaster level. The Tokyo government opened an inoculation site where young people can get a jab without an appointment. Officials had planned to administer about 200 doses a day. The site was to open at noon on Friday, but there were already 300 people lining up by 7:30 in the morning.
I got here at 3 a.m. I haven't been able to get an appointment for a jab in the ward where I live.
Officials stopped accepting applications shortly after 7:30. Starting Saturday, they'll hand out lottery tickets to people visiting the site in the morning and announce the results online. On Friday, the government expanded a state of emergency to include 8 more prefectures. The measure now covers 21 out of 47 prefectures and will stay in place until September 12th. Strict antivirus measures are also in effect in 12 other prefectures. The weekly average of new infections has been rising in many parts of the country. Across Japan, more than 24,000 new cases were reported on Friday. 2,000 people are in serious condition. 4 ruling party lawmakers from Japan and Taiwan are urging their leaders to draw up common security policies to counter an increasingly assertive China. 2 foreign and defense affairs specialists from Japan conferred online with a pair of counterparts from Taiwan on Friday.
Recently, China has been building up its military and it's not concealing its intentions. It is our major responsibility now to increase deterrence and prevent the region from becoming unstable. We must prevent any unwanted incidents.
A lawmaker from Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party commented the biggest threat at the moment is China, which is applying military and economic pressure on Taiwan. He added Taiwan and Japan need to join hands to stand up to China. Next, to Friday's Paralympic action. Japan's wheelchair rugby team has defeated 2-time defending champion Australia in the pool phase. The host nation advanced to the semi-finals with 3 straight wins. Japan's ace player Ikezaki Daisuke scored 24 tries, leading his country to a 57-53 victory. Teammate Kurahashi Kae has been a key defender in the past 3 matches. The 30-year-old is the first female on the squad and a former trampoline athlete. She injured her spinal cord in a training accident when she was a university student. Japan was the first Asian nation to win a medal in wheelchair rugby at a Paralympics, taking bronze in Rio in 2016. The team went on to win its first world championship in 2018. They could meet Australia again in the final on Sunday. Now, Japanese competitors also excelled in athletics events. One of them, Sato Tomoki, chased down the gold in the men's 400-meter wheelchair race. He overtook Rio gold medalist Raymond Martin in the home stretch. Sato came second to the American in Rio. British cyclist Kadina Cox won her first gold medal at these games in the women's 500-meter time trial. In 2016, she became the first British Paralympian in 32 years to win gold medals in 2 different sports at the same games. The 30-year-old was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2015. She'll shoot for another gold in an athletics event next week. And the silver went to Canadian Kate O'Brien. The 33-year-old competed as a cyclist at the Rio Olympics. The following year, she was gravely injured in a cycling accident, but bounced back to become a Paralympian. Now, in weather, people living along the U.S. Gulf Coast are keeping an eye on a powerful system that's battered Cuba. Our meteorologist Jonathan O has the details in our World Weather Report.
Hello, Ida is continuing to make its way across Cuba and toward the north and west, approaching the U.S. Gulf Coast. And we're seeing plenty of clouds along a good portion of Cuba as the center circulation is moving south of there, but eventually it will make its way toward the north and west. And those of you located on the U.S. Gulf Coast, especially from Louisiana into Mississippi and Alabama and all the way over to Florida, you can be seeing impact from the storm as we go throughout the day, throughout the weekend, in fact, all the way into